Before we start, a quick reminder of how this video works. When I move, the video speeds up. When I stop, we learn. So movement is just flow and building. Stopping is where the understanding happens. That's where the marks are. Today we're covering IAS 21, the effects of changes in foreign exchange rates. IAS 21 is one of those standards that looks messy at first, but once you understand the order of decisions, it becomes mechanical. And mechanical standards are the easiest ones to score in. So let's get started. Objective and scope. IAS 21 has a very specific objective. It exists to answer two questions. Which exchange rate do I use and where do I put the exchange difference? If you can answer those two questions correctly, you are applying IAS 21 correctly. It applies to all foreign currency transactions and all foreign currency balances. There's only one important exclusion, which is IFRS 9 derivatives. If a question involves derivatives, IAS 21 steps aside. This tells you something important. IAS 21 is about translation, not risk management. Functional currency. Every IAS 21 question starts in the same place. You must identify the functional currency. The functional currency is the currency of the primary economic environment in which the entity operates. This is not the reporting currency, the parent's currency, or the currency management prefers. It is the currency that mainly influences sale prices and costs. Until the functional currency is identified, nothing else in IAS 21 is allowed to happen. If you get this wrong, every translation that follows is wrong. Foreign currency and classification. Once the functional currency has been identified, any transaction in a different currency becomes the foreign currency transaction. A foreign currency is simple. It's any currency other than the functional currency. Once you have the foreign currency item, IAS 21 forces you to classify it as either monetary or non-monetary. This classification is critical because it determines which exchange rate you use later and whether the exchange rate differences arise. Monetary items. Monetary items are units of currency held or assets and liabilities to be received or paid in a fixed or determinable number of currency units. Examples include cash, trade receivables, trade payables, and borrowings. Now, the initial recognition is where you use the transaction date, which is the date the transaction first qualifies for recognition, and you apply the same spot exchange rate on that date. In practice, an average rate may be used if it approximates the spot rate. Then for subsequent measurement, this is usually at the reporting date and at settlement. This is where monetary items are translated at the closing rate. Any difference that arises is a foreign exchange gain or loss, and that gain or loss is recognized in the statement of profit or loss. Always. There's no exceptions. The initial recognition of non-monetary items. Non-monetary items are the opposite of monetary items. They do not involve a fixed or determinable amount of currency. Examples include property, plant and equipment, investment property, and inventory. And at initial recognition, you still use the transaction date and the spot exchange rate on that date with the same average rate exemption. Up to this point, monetary and non-monetary items behave the same. The difference only appears after initial recognition. The subsequent measurement of non-monetary items. The subsequent measurement of non-monetary items depends entirely on how the item is measured. There are different methods that are used, starting with historical cost model. If the item is measured at this one, It is not translated at the reporting date. It remains at the historical exchange rate. No exchange differences arise after initial recognition. The second one is fair value model. If the item is measured using this model, you first calculate the fair value in the foreign currency, then you translate the fair value using the exchange rate at the date the fair value was determined. Any difference between the initial and the subsequent amount is recognized as foreign exchange gain or loss in the statement of profit or loss. And the loss method is the net realizable value or the recoverable amount method. The same logic applies. You calculate the value in foreign currency, you translate it using the exchange rate at the date the value was determined, and you recognize the differences in profit or loss. Impairment of non-monetary assets. When performing an impairment test on non-monetary assets, IAS 21 adds one more layer of discipline. The asset is measured at the lower of 1, the carrying amount multiplied by the historical exchange rate, or number 2, the net realizable value or the recoverable amount multiplied by the closing rate. This prevents assets from being overstated in functional currency terms. Where exchange differences go. This is a rule that is usually forgotten, that foreign exchange gains and losses on assets and liabilities are recognized in the statement of profit or loss. IAS 21 is strict in this regard. If it is translation differences, it has to go to the statement of profit or loss. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Now bring it all together. IAS 21 is not about intuition. It's about following a sequence. First, it's functional currency. The second is the classification. Third is the exchange rate. And lastly, the fourth is the statement of profit or loss. If you follow the order, IAS 21 never falls apart. I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you guys in the next one.